Hello everyone, it's Jasmine. Welcome back to my channel. Today's card is going to be the third card from my series for Scrapping for Less in the card kit that they sent me. So we're going to start off with a shaker. And shakers can be really kind of tricky, but hopefully I will show you how it can be done fairly simply as well. So I've got a piece of the craft cardstock, and this originally was cut 4 1/4 to 5 1/2, and this comes in the kit. And then I've got the Avery L. Wonky Stitches die set. And there are 2 frame dies in this set. The larger cuts to 4 by 5 1/4, and then the smaller one, this internal piece that you see here, is cut down to 3 by 4. And so I've got a piece of Hero Arts acetate that I'm going to use for my shaker window, and that is trimmed down to 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. And so I've got some 1/8 inch wide Be Creative tape on the perimeter of my windows. I'm going to adhere that acetate panel down. And then I'm going to use some double thickness 3M foam tape. So I folded it in half and over on itself and then trimmed it with my scissors. So that is roughly 1/3 of an inch wide. It's going to kind of depend on how wide your margins are on the back side of your panel. And you want to make sure you butt the ends up next to each other so they're flush so that your shaker bits can't escape. And it's less of an issue if you're using larger things like sequins, but if you have things in your mix like glitter or seed beads that are really tiny, they can escape kind of easily if you've got bigger gaps. So as a practice, when I make shaker cards, I butt my foam tape up against each other so it's flush. And it is really flexible, so you can kind of make it fit. And then I've got a powder tool that I'm running along the edges, the inner edges of my foam tape so nothing sticks. And it's also going to help cut down on the static of the acetate itself. So I've got a piece of pattern paper, and this is from the kit, and this is Rainbow Dots and Stripes by Sunny Studio. And we're going to make our own pattern paper with it. So this stamp set is also by Sunny Studio, and it's called Puppy Dog Kisses. And we're going to take these 2 images. One is obviously a dog, the other one you could use as like a Chihuahua type dog, but you could also make it look like a cat too. And then I've got 2 Catherine Pooler inks here. One is Tiara, which is a nice golden yellow color, and the other is Coral Cabana. So using my little, I don't know what breed this is, maybe a Scotty dog. I'm going to stamp that down using the Tiara ink, just randomly. And I'm using just a simple square block for this. And then for the Chihuahua type dog, I'm using the Coral Cabana. And so that it looks random, you want to just keep kind of changing directions, stamp off the edge. You kind of want to make each one look a little different than the other ones. But don't worry too much about it. It's going to be behind the card, so it's not going to be super obvious. But don't stress about it. It's just pattern paper. And so now moving on to, this is going to be a little square panel that's going to go on the front of our card. So we're going to stamp it down using the Misty and some ink on 3 blackout ink. And this is fairly new to the market. It's a hybrid ink. You can use it for watercolor, Copic markers, color pencils, lots of different color mediums will work with this ink. And I really like it. It's nice and dark. And then to get my sentiment, the puppy birthday wishes and puppy dog kisses to stand out, I'm going to heat emboss just the sentiment. So I will remove the 2 animal stamps and put some Versamark on the sentiment and stamp it over top of the black. And using a MISTI or another stamp petitioner tool if you have one, it makes this process really easy. So it's kind of I use that tool in my craft room every time I make a card. So we're going to go in with some Copic markers, and I'm using Cool Grays for the dog on the left. And these are really small images, so if you don't have, I used 4 gray colors on this. If you don't have that many, don't worry about it. You can use tip-to-tip method, which I will show in a second. For the brown dog, I'll use the tip-to-tip, so I can show you how I do it. But if you only have, like, say, 2 gray markers, you can certainly color with just 2. And to get the darker tones, like the C6 or C8, you just want to layer. And you won't get, like if you only have a C2 and a C0, for example, you won't get as dark as a C8 or C6, but you can get darker tones by layering them together. And if you're new to Copic markers, or you've had them for a while and just are not satisfied with your blending, things like that, I highly, highly recommend Sandy Alnock's channel and her Copic Jumpstart class. I've taken the Jumpstart class myself, and I really learned a lot from it. So I think you can too. So I've only used C8 for the noses on the dogs. And C6 was the darkest one I used for the fur. And then I've got RV14 for a little bow in her hair. And I'll use R20 for the pink in her ears. So for the little brown dog to the right, I'm going to use, let me make sure I've got this right, E37, E49. So they're not too different on the color spectrum of the Copic markers, but they aren't exactly easy to blend either. So what I've done with these two is using the tip-to-tip method to kind of get it in between color. So I've laid down my base layer of E37, and then I'm going in with my 49 to add my shadows. And then I'll take the 37 and kind of brush it over the 49 to pick up some of the 49. And then when you color it down, it will blend the 2 colors and give you that in-between shade, kind of a bridge between 2 colors that might be a lot more different from each other than similar. And I'm coloring on Nina Solar White 110-pound cardstock that's also in the kit. And if you get any bleeding issues where your ink from your markers is going outside of your stamped image lines, just let it dry for a second, probably 30-45 seconds, and you can go back into the layer, because alcohol ink does dry fairly quickly. But when you get it overly saturated, it will weep out. So I've got R20 for the ears and the cheeks, and then on the little brown dog, I'll go with a little bit of R14 just at the base of his ear, and then blends it out with the R20. And I'm using C4 just to give a little shadow underneath our puppies, to give them something to sit on so they're not floating. And I add the darker pink in the ears just to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I've got some glossy accents, just a tiny bit on their noses to give it some shine. And here I've got my card base and my pattern paper, and I have trimmed the card base and the edges or corners other pattern paper using We Are Memory Keepers Corner Chopper. And then I've got some Be Creative tape on the perimeter edges of my pattern paper to adhere that down to my card base. And the pack of sequins comes with the kit. And I'm going to use the whole bag. There's probably half a tablespoon worth of sequins in the little bag. And they're nice, bright, fun colors. So I group my sequins in towards the middle, but kind of flatten it out so that it doesn't automatically stick to the acetate. So I'm going in with another coat of my powder tool just to make sure, and then I'll remove my backing paper with my foam tape and I will stick that down. And then I have cut out my Copic colored image using a rounded square die, and that measures 2.5 inches. Just got some more Be Creative tape on the back of that. And the embossing powder I used on the sentiment is British Monroe Icicle embossing powder. And the pink striped cardstock that I'm going to use here in a second is also from the Sunny Studio pattern paper kit. And I'm going to kind of measure how wide I need it using the little dies. These also come in the kit. And I want to say that was 2 inches wide with my paper trimmer. And these little dies are from Frantic Stamper. And so I'm just going to die cut a whole bunch of those. I think these are so cute. Little wolf and little dog bone. And you can kind of change up the position of your dies on the cardstock so you get like a different look to them, whether your stripes are going horizontal or vertical across the die cut itself. Just a fun little difference. So here I've got my die cuts. And when I'm thinking about adding the die cuts, like the wolf and the dog bone, for example, I always use odd numbers. So I might do 4 bones and 3 wolves, or vice versa. When your eye looks at something and it has even numbers, it wants to match them up into pairs, which can kind of make it uncomfortable to look at. Whereas if it's odd numbers, it doesn't do that. So it's just there, and it's just random. And so it makes it easier and more attractive to the eye to look at things with odd numbers versus even. I'm just going to use some Tombow Monty Multi-Glue to put that down. And when things are going off the edge of other elements on your card, it looks more random. So if you struggle with doing things randomly, try moving it off the edges a little bit and see if that kind of makes it easier for you. So those are all placed, and we're going to go in with a tonic glitter gloss aqua pen and add a little bit to her bow, and then I'm going to color over each of the die cuts, the wolf and the bone die cuts, to get a little bit of sparkle. And that is our card for today. So let me know what you think in the description box. I will leave links to the Copic coloring class I mentioned, as well as the card kit in the description box, and we will catch you guys next time. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye-bye.